Hello and welcome to the My Top 10 Games podcast, the show where guests are brought on to discuss their top 10 games of all time. I'm your host Ben, also known online as Dropped Ice Cream. So this is an introductory episode where I'll go over the basic premise of the show and the relationship I have with the gaming world personally. Each episode a new guest will be brought on. Firstly, they will introduce themselves and go over the consoles they've had over their lives. The guests will then name 2 games that they select as honourable mentions. Now these 2 games aren't necessarily what would be their 11th and 12th game on the list, but instead be games that they have had noticeable impacts on their lives. As an example, I would personally say Minecraft as an honourable mention, as even though it wouldn't make my top 10 list, I can't deny that it's had a large impact on me growing up, in both the game itself and the media surrounding it. From there, the guests will name off their top 10 video games of all time, and we'll discuss why each game is on their list. I think my aim for this is to be a very relaxed podcast. I love the idea for not only the chance to discuss my love for games, but also when it comes to top 10 lists, it's always great to hear people talk about something they're clearly passionate about. Now, you'll get to know each guest, but first I think it's right you get to know the host. And as I said, my name is Ben. Online I usually go by the alias of Dropped Ice Cream. I am 21 and I've been playing games for as long as I can remember. I remember my parents owning a PlayStation 1 when I was a small boy, with games such as Formula 1 racing, and even a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire game. Around that time I remember getting loads of TV games that had like a joystick and one button. It had classics like Pac-Man, Dig Dug, Space Invaders and such. I then do vividly remember my parents getting me a PlayStation 2 for Christmas that had the Simpsons Hit and Run. That console I loved, and that was my childhood basically. I believe from after that, I went on to own a Nintendo DS, and then along the line I got a DSi and eventually a 3DS. I never owned a Nintendo Wii though. That was always a console I would play around people's houses. Keeping with my PlayStation trend, I owned a PlayStation 3, but unfortunately all my friends owned an Xbox 360, so that did lead me to eventually trade it in for one of those. I remember also owning a PSP 3000, and eventually getting a PS Vita, which I do still have now, although admittedly I've never got around to playing much on that. When the next generation of consoles came around, I got a PlayStation 4, which I still own now. I never got an Xbox One though. I also have a Wii U. No, I had a Wii U, but then as soon as the Switch released, I traded that in for the Switch. Throughout my life, I've just been playing on PC mainly, and especially now that's my primary system to play games on. And I believe that covers everything, with an exception of going round to my grandparents' house and playing stuff like Game Boy. Now, I could go on for ages about specific games, but I will leave that for guest interviews. I hope you'll join me on this journey, where for now all I have planned is interviews with friends. I hope to move on to interviewing a wide range of people who are in the industry, whether it be a developer, content creator, journalist or such. And with that, I really appreciate you taking the time to listen. Thank you, and until next time, farewell.